Hi there. This is a very quick demo to show you how in Primed you can connect inventory, connect it to your policies, your business, and run some workflow against it. What I'm going to attempt to do now in very quick order is to show you how to quickly create surveys, which are obviously attached to the workflow, really simply load in inventory, and they could be processes, assets, they could be suppliers, they could be customers, it could be whatever you need them to be. Align them to a policy or a standard or a regulation, really simply to do, and then run a workflow across the top of it, which might mean you want to go and gather some information, you might want to go and prove something, you might want to go and attest something against that inventory. Then I'll quickly show you how to track that workflow process against a process and intervene, look at reminders. And then to follow these steps, I'm not going to show you exactly how you can look at the survey, you can look at commentary and add risk, and then review the outcome of all of those exercises. I'm going to try and do this in about 3 minutes if possible. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to show you is how to create surveys. So surveys are really simply to create in Primed. You just create a template. You can copy templates, so they can have headers, they can have specific questions, they can have single choice question answers. So you can create the answers you want to see, or you can have subjective answers as in sort of free text, so allow people to put in some commentary, etc. So you can gather information really quickly, do discovery, or answer very specific questions. So that's a very simple way of creating surveys. What you can also do in the product is you can upload information really, really simply. So I'll quickly show you that now. So by selecting the upload button, you can pick the items, you can find them in location on shared drives, etc. And here's one I prepared earlier. So here's an upload which has a number of different processes, a number of different inventory items that are aligned to a particular organization, for example. And you can upload those, and as soon as they're uploaded, they would appear in Primed. And a really simple way then of looking at those items in Primed is just by searching them under a particular org entity or under a particular value, and they can be presented. What I've got here is a particular policy. I'm going to show you now how you can align policy to all of that inventory really simply. So the first thing is you need to find your policy. I've got a policy here which is about a DPIA against new processes. I'm going to select that particular policy, and then I'm going to firstly filter all the relationships it has with all the inventory that I wanted to have, and then I'm going to create the relationship. It's that simple. Now, a really, really neat way of being able to see those relationships is via a Sankey diagram. So if I just quickly show you a Sankey diagram, here's those processes I've just loaded in. Here's the policy that I aligned them to, and the outcome, which is possibly GDPR policy, but this is just a sub-policy against it. So I've aligned that against all of these particular processes. Then it's just a simple case of running a workflow against it. Now, in this particular example, what I wanted to do is just run a workflow which shows as asking the reviewer to look at the survey, answer some questions. I'm going to receive that and analyze it and make a judgment on its outcome. I'm going to save it, action it, and maybe add some commentary to it. So that's a really simple workflow that I'm going to execute here. So as soon as I've done that, I'm going to find the policy there. So I'll select this policy. Okay, here's the policy. You then find the workflow that I've attached to this particular policy, and you create action, and it runs the policy in the background. It's a really simple way of actually running a set of workflows against a policy. Now, what you actually see is actually would have sent me a questionnaire. So here's that questionnaire that I just created earlier, and it then renders itself as a web form. So not everybody needs access to Prime. They can just actually look at it within their email, and it'll ask all these questions, and all they'll have to do is fill the questions in. There's obviously a lot of questions here. But what you can actually then do, as I said, is some subjective stuff, submit survey, and as soon as that survey is submitted, all of the data is loaded into Primed. A really simple way to do a level of discovery and ask some questions of the people who own that inventory. Now, a neat way of tracking all of that, because that's obviously got 50 things there that need to be asked across a large group, a large community, is we've created this thing called an action dashboard. So I found a particular workflow that's relevant. It's to send this survey out, it's to do a review, it's for somebody to sign it off, and it has the capability in there to remind people that they have something to do or escalate to people if something's not been done. And then all you need to do is just go into the details. So all of these things would sit in the actions. You'd be able to see the actions behind it. So those that have been completed, here they are. It's not just a list. You can actually dive into the detail. There's one there that's actually amber, for example, adding commentary, adding documents, adding risks, etc. So that's a really simple way of being able to intervene on things that haven't been done. Now, when they have been done and somebody's completed the whole exercise, they will ultimately end up in what we've called a compliance dashboard. So here's that particular policy that I set up and all the processes that are against it. And as you can see, there are a few here that are amber. So if I just select these amber one here, I just pick this particular one. You can see that there's been some commentary against it. All that commentary is stored and held for the life cycle of the actual policy, and it's stored so you can keep a good audit, but also the actual questions that they answered are also stored as well. So you keep a solid and traceable inventory from start to finish.